Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode of Data Security Decoded by Rubrik Zero Labs. I'm Caleb Tolan, your guest host for this episode, and today we're wrapping up Cybersecurity Awareness Month with a compilation of some of our favorite episodes. We've gathered wisdom from cybersecurity leaders who've been there, done that, and have the battle scars to prove it. From healthcare warriors to federal defenders, they all agree that security is not a once-a-year affair. So let's decode what it means to build a security-first culture that lasts all year long. Enjoy!
Do you think that it's because a lot of us, because we're technologists too, right? Do we think that it will work our way out of a job, or we won't be perceived as contributing to value? It's not about us. It really isn't about us. It's about the company, And I think the other thing is that when we begin to feel insecure about that aspect, that should be a signal and a sign to us that means we need to broaden our skill set, right? Because it's when you go and resharpen and retool or add to your toolbox, then you are more valuable. Because if you think about that RevGen conversation I just mentioned, that CEO and company could have said, you know what, Katie, thanks, but no thanks.
I am very fortunate to work for an organization whose leadership really prioritizes cybersecurity. I mean, I've heard words such as outside of clinical care, cybersecurity is a priority. That kind of leadership has really enabled, permeate a culture of cybersecurity across the organization. I think one of the successful tactics that can be leveraged is our caregivers think about patient safety in everything that they do. I mean, they live and breathe patient safety. And it's very easy to tie cybersecurity to patient safety. So it's almost like it is everybody's job to implement sound cybersecurity, because if we do it poorly, it could affect and impact patient safety.
So one other stat that he mentioned, actually, as he was leading into that part of the conversation, was that there are 7 million unfilled jobs. And that's just as of today within the larger industry. And so in combination, right, with all of these challenges we've mentioned, we also don't have enough skilled resources. And that's plagued the security industry for decades. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing in the immediate sense, right? We're all doing everything we can to get more qualified personnel into the field, to educate children about the field younger, so that, we have a really strong pipeline. But all that said, that means that technology, I think, plays an even more critical role. And we, you and I and our teams as technology providers really have a responsibility to create opportunities for technology to be much more operationalized.
You don't pick sides. You can't. You have to be everywhere all at once. This isn't a job that is really for the faint of heart. And if people can't multitask or understand the triad that CISOs abide by, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Like, that's what our jobs are.
What advice do you give to companies and boards in terms of what they should be looking for from their organization?
So it really comes down to, I guess, the key, John, is to have it as a business conversation. You really need to look at it from that perspective when you're talking to that audience. And I know oftentimes I oversimplify things, but it's, when you're first learning to speak publicly, the first thing is know your audience. So, you don't walk in and let them know about the challenges of complying with GDPR or CPRA or any of that. It's a different conversation. It's listen, and those statistics and those truths from a business perspective are out there. Like, GDPR is going to potentially cost you X amount per, record, and it's based on your, revenue and so on and so forth. So again, it's understanding the business, and it's understanding the business language and understanding what their concerns are. Because if you walk in there into the boardroom or the C-suite and start talking to them about regulatory things, and again, remember what I said about that organization that did the switch. They really, I don't want to say they didn't care. compliance was not a priority for them. Making money to stay in business was. So you really need to understand what is going on in the room, what's going on with the business. Where are they in their life cycle? Where are they in regards to their strategy?
I think there's a lot of talent out there. I think we have a shortage of vision, I think that if we don't go to the spaces underrepresented or under-resourced areas, we're missing out on many of opportunities where people, there are kids out there that are doing things that are just amazing. And a great example is I volunteered at DC All-Stars one time in the past couple of weeks. And I had to ask one of the kids to show me how to work the kiosk for me to get into the building. Because it was, in my opinion, it was fancy.
Yeah, just like those board of directors don't know if they really want the diversity of the CISO on their boards. We as CISOs and in IT security, we tend to overqualify what we need in a position versus we'd rather go a year without filling a position because we can't find the right candidate versus filling it with someone with the aptitude and knowledge to learn the position and let them grow in 6 months and to be able to do that position and giving somebody a chance. Years ago, I was in I had physical security, and I had a guy, and he was a former police officer, and he ran my physical security out in Ohio. And I said, hey, anybody who wants to learn computer forensics, raise your hand. And he raised his hand. He's now the CEO of a cybersecurity recruiting firm. And he was, ran the security operations center at J&J for a while and over at CVS. And that's what we've got to understand, that sometimes it's not just the hardcore, can you do Python coding? Can you do this? Can you do that? It's all the other things, especially in corporations. In the government, where there is a defend mission or an attack mission, is really pretty clear. You could have people who know what they're doing there. The military will train them. But in corporate America, 90% of what is done is communicating cybersecurity to the business and helping the business understand how to configure their IT so that they are able to help make it secure.
The concepts we had to get around and manage was for these very mission-driven people. If you tell them, you just say, you need to relax, you need to take some time off, you need to do this. Well, for very mission-driven people, that's always, yes, later, right? I have to do this now, Absolutely. But I'll get to it later at the expense of their own well-being sometimes. And so what we did is, being a member of the Air Force, there's a term that many people are familiar with, and it's crew rest. And the reason I chose that terminology when I put this out was nobody ever accuses fighter pilots of being lazy because they need crew rest. We're all really grateful, let's say, if your pilot that's going to be piloting the plane that you're on, or your family members, is well rested and knows what to do with this very important job that they've got to do.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, one thing is crystal clear. Cybersecurity isn't just a technology thing. It's about people. From Wendi Whitmore's stark reality check about our workforce gap to Renata Spinks' inspiring take on finding talent in unexpected places, we're challenging how we approach cybersecurity. Remember, in Candy Alexander's words, it's not about us, it's about the company. So keep building those bridges, breaking those silos, and making security a part of your company's DNA. This is Caleb Tolan with Data Security Decoded, where every month is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. See you next time.